Imagine you invent the future. You build it with your own hands, in your own labs, with your own engineers. You hold in your hands the very device that will one day overthrow your empire. You see it, you understand it, and then you put it away in a dark room. How is this possible? How can a company so brilliant, so dominant, so completely intertwined with the fabric of modern life, fail to see the power of its own creation? This is not a story of a business that was ambushed by an outside force. It is the story of a titan that built its own ghost in the machine, a ghost that would eventually come to haunt its empty factories, silent boardrooms. The question is not simply what happened to Kodak. The real question is why. In the golden age of the 20th century, Kodak was more than a company. It was an institution, a cultural force as powerful and American as Coca-Cola Ford. George Eastman's simple but revolutionary idea in the 1880s to make photography accessible to everyone had blossomed into a global empire. "You press the button, we do the rest," the slogan promised. This brilliant insight created a razor and blades business model that was the envy of the world. Brownie cameras, razors, film and developing services. For decades, it was a money-printing machine. The company's dominance was absolute. It controlled nearly 90% of the film market in the United States. The iconic yellow and red boxes were everywhere. Corner drugstores, remote tourist outposts. Kodak Park in Rochester, New York was a city unto itself, a sprawling campus of innovation and manufacturing that employed tens of thousands of people. These were not just jobs, they were careers, lifetime promises of security and prosperity. The company culture was paternalistic, a cradle-to-grave system that fostered immense loyalty. To work at Kodak was to be part of a proud, stable, and seemingly invincible family. This immense success was built on a foundation of relentless innovation, but innovation of a specific kind. Chemists, engineers, chemical emulsions, color dyes, film coatings. They filed thousands of patents, creating a fortress of intellectual property that kept competitors at bay. The company's name was synonymous with quality and trust. Weddings, graduation, a child's first steps. Prince returned for the family album. Inside this fortress, the world felt secure. The stock market charts told a story of steady, upward growth. The dividends were reliable. The turning point did not arrive with a thunderclap. It arrived in 1975 in the form of a clunky device cobbled together by a young Kodak engineer named Steve Sasson. The contraption was the size of a toaster. It used a new type of sensor, a charge-coupled device, or CCD, to capture a black and white image. It took 23 seconds to record the 0.01 megapixel image onto a cassette tape. To view it, Sasson and his team had to build another custom machine to read the tape and display the grainy result on a television screen. It was slow, crude, and the quality was laughably poor compared to the rich colors of Kodachrome film. When Sasson presented his filmless camera to a group of Kodak executives, their reaction was a mix of curiosity and dismissal. He was met with questions like, "That's cute, but don't tell anyone about it." The bosses saw the technology, but they did not see the future. They saw a gimmick, a science fair project that had no practical application for the consumers who bought billions of dollars of film every year. Why would anyone want to look at a photograph on a television set? Where was the album? The print you could hold in your hand and put in your wallet. The invention was interesting, but it was not photography as they knew it. The core of the problem was a conflict of vision. To an engineer like Sasson, the digital camera was a thrilling proof of concept, a signal of what was to come. He saw a path, however long, towards smaller, faster, and better digital images. But to the executives, whose careers and bonuses were tied to film sales, the device was a threat. It represented a world without film, without processing chemicals, and without the lucrative printing business. Adopting it would mean cannibalizing their own golden goose. It felt far safer and more profitable to treat digital photography as a niche, a distant possibility rather than an immediate priority. And so, Kodak made a fateful decision. It did not kill the technology. The company was too smart for that. Instead, it contained it. Sasson's patent was approved. Research continued in the labs, but it was compartmentalized and underfunded. The digital division was kept separate from the main film business, an odd cousin with no real power or influence. The company saw digital as a potential tool for specialized commercial and government markets, not as the successor to consumer photography. As the 1980s gave way to the 1990s, the digital flicker grew into a flame. Competitors, unburdened by a legacy film business, began to move. Companies in Japan like Sony, Canon, Nikon. They started developing their own digital cameras. They saw what Kodak's leadership refused to see: that Moore's law would relentlessly drive the technology forward. Sensors would get better, memory would get cheaper, processing speeds would increase exponentially. They were not trying to protect a film empire. They were trying to build a new one. Kodak, the inventor, was now in a race against its own invention. Kodak was not entirely asleep. A comprehensive 1981 internal report existed. It was authored by Kodak's Marketing Intelligence Group. The report predicted digital could seriously impact and eventually replace film. The report gave the company roughly 10 years to prepare. The leadership team saw the report. They understood the data. The timeline was clear. The threat was known. Yet they consciously doubled down on the past, instead of investing fully in the future. Fear of disrupting short-term film profits paralyzed long-term strategy. The collapse was not sudden. It was a slow, grinding decline, like a great ship taking on water before finally slipping beneath the waves. The new millennium brought the reckoning. The tipping point came faster than even the pessimists had predicted. The sales of digital cameras exploded, the demand for film plummeted. For Kodak, it was as if a tap that had flowed with gold for 100 years had suddenly been turned off. Red Kodak film boxes gathering dust. Yellow Kodak film boxes gathering dust. The sound of the decline was the silence where the ka-ching of the cash register used to be. The company scrambled to react, but it was fighting a war on a battlefield it no longer understood. It launched its own line of easy-share digital cameras, and for a brief time, it even captured a significant market share. But the competition was fierce, and the profit margins were razor-thin compared to film. Kodak was now just one player among many, competing on price in a commoditized market. Then came the second blow: the smartphone. Mobile phones absorbed high-quality cameras led by Apple's iPhone, making the standalone digital camera itself obsolete for most consumers. The human toll was devastating. The steady drumbeat of bad news became a roar. Layoffs, once unthinkable, became a regular occurrence. Tens of thousands of workers were let go. Historic factories in Kodak Park were shuttered and then demolished. The city of Rochester suffered a deep economic and psychological wound. On January 19, 2012, the inevitable happened. Eastman Kodak, the 131-year-old icon, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. The company that had taught the world how to capture memories could no longer afford its own future. The stock, once a blue-chip staple, was worthless. The news echoed around the globe, a cautionary tale told in grim headlines. The great giant had fallen. The empty storefronts and silent factories stood as monuments to a missed opportunity, a future that Kodak had invented but had failed to claim. Yeah. The numbers of the collapse, billions in lost market value, tens of thousands of jobs cut, are staggering. They fail to capture the true emotional weight of the fall. The story of Kodak is written in the lives of the people it left behind. It's in the story of the third-generation factory worker who had to explain to his children why the plant was closing. It's in the quiet despair of the research chemist whose life's work on film emulsions was suddenly rendered obsolete. These were not just employees. They were believers in the Kodak promise of a stable life built on hard work and loyalty. Imagine the engineers in the digital labs in the 1980s and 90s. They saw the future coming. They built the prototypes. They argued in meetings for more funding for a more aggressive strategy. They watched with a growing sense of frustration and helplessness as their warnings were ignored and their projects were sidelined. For them, the company's bankruptcy was a tragic, long-foreseen conclusion. It was the pain of knowing you had the answer, but nobody with the power to act would listen. It was the bitterness of watching smaller, nimbler companies seize the future you had helped to invent. The collapse also rippled outward, into the homes of ordinary people. For generations, families had chronicled their lives on Kodak film. Boxes of slides and carousels, envelopes of prints in attics and basements. The fall of Kodak felt personal, like losing a part of one's own past. It was a stark reminder that the world was changing in fundamental ways. The familiar ritual of dropping off a roll of film and waiting in anticipation to see the prints was gone, replaced by the instantaneous and ephemeral nature of a phone screen. The end of Kodak was the end of a shared cultural experience. Even in the boardrooms, the story was one of human failure. The executives who made the fateful decisions were not villains. They were capable managers acting rationally within a system that rewarded protecting existing profits. Their failure was not one of intelligence, but of courage and imagination. They were trapped by their own success, unable to see beyond the next quarter's earnings report. The weight of a century of tradition proved too heavy a burden to carry into a new and uncertain age. Their story is a timeless human drama of good people making bad choices for understandable, yet ultimately fatal reasons. You know, it's painful. The wreckage of Kodak's empire offers sharp, undeniable lessons for any founder, leader, or innovator today. The first is the most critical. Do not fall in love with your business model. Kodak fell in love with the profits from film, not the mission of sharing memories. Your current way of making money is not sacred. It is a temporary strategy. You must be willing to destroy your own most profitable product if a better way to serve your customer emerges, especially if you invent it. True innovation requires embracing cannibalization. Second, culture eats strategy for breakfast. Kodak had the right strategy papers. Its own analysts predicted the digital transition with stunning accuracy. But the company's culture was too rigid, too hierarchical, and too focused on protecting the old guard. A culture of innovation cannot be confined to the R&D lab. It must permeate every level of the organization. You must build a culture that rewards brave questions, tolerates failure, empowers the champions of new ideas. Third, speed is a weapon. Kodak was not blind, it was just slow. It treated the digital revolution as a distant event, giving competitors a decade-long head start. In today's world, the window of opportunity is even smaller. You must act on weak signals. You must experiment quickly and cheaply. A wait-and-see approach is a recipe for obsolescence. The market will not wait for you to feel comfortable. By the time a disruption is obvious to everyone, it is already too late to lead it. Kodak did not die entirely. A smaller, leaner version emerged from bankruptcy, shedding the consumer photography business that had once defined it. It pivoted to focus on commercial printing systems, advanced materials, specialty chemicals, a return, in a way, to its deep technical roots. The iconic name lives on, but as a shadow of its former self. It is a company that survived, but it is no longer the cultural titan that put a camera in every home and defined the visual memory of an entire century. The empire is gone. The story of Kodak is the ultimate cautionary tale for the digital age. It is a story that should be told in every business school and every startup garage. It is a reminder that market leadership is temporary and that no company is too big to fail. It proves that technological superiority is not enough. Without the right culture, the right business model, and the courage to act, even the most brilliant invention can become a footnote in the story of a competitor's success. Kodak had the future in its hands, and it let it slip away. Think about that the next time you pull out your phone to take a picture. That simple act, instant, digital, and connected, is the ghost of Kodak. It is the future that was born in their labs and rejected in their boardrooms. The image on your screen is bright, clear, and immediate. It is a world away from the chemical magic of film, a world that Kodak saw coming but could not bring itself to lead. The legacy of Kodak is therefore a duality: the beautiful, tangible memories stored in our parents' photo albums, and the harsh, intangible lesson about the brutal cost of standing still. Change is the only constant. It can be a creative force or a destructive one. It can build new empires on the ruins of old ones. The story of Kodak is not really about cameras or film. It is about the fundamental choice every organization and every individual must face when confronted with radical change. Do you become a victim of the future, or do you become its architect? Kodak had its chance to choose. We all have ours. Which will you choose?